let's talk about my new assortment of parts here. So this is some stuff that I've ordered for a CFMoto Ibex 450. So up here I have a battery tender battery charger. There's a couple of different versions of this you can get. This is a little bit overkill for motorcycle use, but I take this with me camping, so if I ever ended up with a dead battery when I was out camping with my bikes, I could plug this into power off of my RV and charge the bike battery. Smaller version of this charger, I'll have a link for that down in the description below, as well as this big one. For maintenance charging around home, I always use the small one. It's an 800 milliamp. So right here, this is my favorite style battery tender lead. It's made by Optimate. It's got this nice little rubber style silicone boot. And let's take, this piece actually pulls off, but kind of weatherproofs the connection. Super nice. Molded in connectors on the end, and then we have a small fuse here. This is a 15 amp fuse. I usually replace this with a smaller fuse. Next, we have a GPS mount. Lots of different options of this available. I chose to get something off of Amazon because it was really affordable. But this will clamp around the bar that's above the instrument cluster and below the bar behind the windscreen. So this is your plate. It's an amps style mounting plate that will work with the Garmin amps mount. Next up, I have a pair of SimTech grip heaters. I've used these on my current dual sport bike, DRZ 400S, which I've had since 2006. Other than replacing the switch a few times because the switch got wet and quit working, these grip heaters have been flawless. Unlike a lot of grip heaters that are a wraparound element style that you put on the grip, or rather on the bars, these do not use a resistor. They have two heating elements here. One heating element for low and then another heating element for high. But most other grip heaters, they use a resistor to shunt off some of the excess power, to drop the voltage, to give you the low setting. So the problem with using that style with the resistors is you have to fiddle around and find a good place to mount the resistor so that it doesn't burn wiring or whatnot down in the electrical system of the bike. You just have to secure it away from anything that's going to be affected by heat that the resistor gives off. So this includes a rocker switch. On my DRZ 400, I use a toggle switch. So another thing here that we've got is a piece of heat shrink tubing. So it included this piece. This is a different piece that I have, but this wraps around the clutch side handlebar. So if you did not use this under the grip heating element, the bars would act like a giant heat sink and suck away a lot of the heat. So using that big piece of heat shrink kind of prevents that heat sink effect of the handlebars. So this is a much heavier duty piece of shrink tubing, and this has glue on the inside. So that's what I'll probably use. So next up we have a assortment of grips. These are Odi Ultra Soft Compound. I have this style same grips, but in the lock-on variety on my KTM 450. I really like them. They work really well. The other style of grips that I may use, I haven't decided yet. These are Pro Grip. They are the Rally Pro Grip 737. You can get these in multiple colors. I've been using these on my DRZ 400. It was one of the first things I upgraded to. Now, just today, I unboxed these two and set them side by side. And one of the things that I noticed is that the Odi style Rogue grips are shorter than these. So these are probably a style that would be used on a motocross style bike, where a dual sport, I would say, probably uses a longer style grip than a typical off-road motorcycle or motocross bike. So that's something to take into account when you're replacing your grips, is the length. So these are at about 4.5 inches. These are about 4 3/4 right to the end of this little nubbin here at the end. Overall length is about 5 inches. So on my Deere Z400, I have cut these right at this lip and gotten rid of this protrusion on the end. So it's yet to be determined which style grips I will use. I think these are a little bit more cushiony. They seem to be a little bit thicker when you put your finger inside and kind of feel the thickness. So we'll see. Here's another assortment of parts that I've gotten in. So we have a screen shade for the instrument panel. We have a enlarged side stand foot. This is a protector for, I think it's for the front ABS sensor. And then here we have a GPS mount. And then these two items came together in a kit that I ordered. You can get one or the other separate. I just found a vendor online that sells them both, but we have rear brake master cylinder protector, and this is the front brake rotor protector. And then over here I have a set of rubberized tank and fairing protectors that go around the tank where your knees and legs would contact. So let's take a closer look. So this is a little platform GPS mount that sits right above the instrument cluster. There's a little platform there, and it would be right below the bar that is attached to the mechanism that raises and lowers the windshield. So the reason I wanted to go this route instead of mounting it on the bar that's already on the bike is every time you raise and lower the windshield, it raises and lowers the GPS. And of course, when you raise it, then it gets the GPS kind of up in your field of vision a little bit. And I just wanted to keep the GPS as low as possible. I have a Garmin Zumo XT. Next, we'll take a closer look at this. Nothing too spectacular. I guess we remove the existing hardware and then run the hardware through that. And that's the same case with this. We have one mounting point over here on the right side. Pretty basic side stand foot. Nothing too spectacular about that. But it lets your side stand work better on soft ground. It's not going to have a tendency to sink in as much. And the screen sunshade, that's really neat. I'm really looking forward to using this. I do also have a anti-glare screen protector on order. That has not arrived yet. So up here in this tube, I'll throw an image up on the screen. I have not opened this up yet, but this is another style of tank and fairing protectors. These extend quite a bit further up the sides of the tank and also on the fairings. So I think these might work better, providing a little bit more protection where a person would have a tank bag mounted, or at least the straps for the tank bag. Next up, I have the Garmin GPS wiring and the amps mount. These are all parts for the Zumo XT, which I've been using for a few years now. This is the amps mounting plate, all the different hardware. And then over here we have the wiring kit. It comes with a whole bunch of zip ties and whatnot. But there's a little plug here that inserts into this little hole here. It pops in through one side, and then you use one of these little tiny screws that I just dropped. Next up, we have a Tusk fuse accessory block. This is a relatively new product that Rocky Mountain came up with. It's a pretty nifty little device. It makes it a whole lot easier and cleaner when you're installing accessories that need power. Down in here we have 3 fuses. You can run up to a total of 15 amps on this, so if you're running an accessory that uses more than 5 amps, then you would replace one of these fuses, but then downsize the others so that across the board you didn't have more than 15 amps. And then I forgot, there's also a little tiny dip switch in there that gives you the ability to select if you want your accessory to be powered through the ignition or if you want it to be powered all the time. So here we have power, positive, negative, and then we have this blue wire, that's the ignition controlled wire. So if you choose to have a device powered with the dip switch set to ignition, then as soon as you turn on your ignition, then you'd have power coming in here, which would then activate whichever circuit you chose to have set for ignition power. And it's got a bunch of different ways that you can wire things up. It does have short little pigtails here, and then we've got other little pigtails here that would mate with this, and then you would connect your accessory up to that. Just use some heat shrink style crimp connectors on that. And then we have a whole bunch of other stuff here. These are some actual bare connectors that are the same as these pigtails. So you could connect your accessory into one of these and then not have to make splices with that. So a couple of different options for hooking up your accessories. So I ordered 2 of these. One will be for my new DRZ 4S, and then the other one will be for the Ibex 450. So we also have a small tusk tank bag. I had one of these on my Tenere 700, and I sold the bike after about 2 years, and I kind of wish that I would have kept the tank bag, but I think it was just like a few months ago I decided I don't need that tank bag anymore, so I put it up for sale. Well, now I'm kind of kicking myself. Not that it matters a whole lot, because here we have another one. For smaller or mid-sized adventure bikes or dual sport bikes that can accommodate a tank bag on top of the tank, I think that the small tank bag is the one that's going to best suit the application. If you've got a bigger bike that has a much bigger tank and has more space, then maybe the large tank bag would work. Another good thing to have if you're planning on doing some wiring and installing additional accessories is some of this braided style wire sheathing. That way you can run your wires inside of it and then use some zip ties to tie this to your existing wire harnesses. That way it just keeps everything secure, and then this stuff protects the wire. Lastly, we have a external TPMS system. So this doesn't show us a whole lot on the box, but I'll throw some images up here and throw in a little short clip of how this is mounted on a Tenere 700. But this is the Psychic Rider SRTP-300. I'm finding it listed on Amazon without the -300. So I'll have a link down in the description below. But there's 2 external TPMS sensors that thread onto your valve stems, and then a little display panel that mounts on the handlebars. On the left side of the display panel, we've got a little rubber cover, and that hides a USB-C charging port. Over on this side, we have 2 buttons. Then the little cover just sits there flush when it's closed up. So here we have a pair of Cycra Ultra Pro Bend CRM handguards. They have this little angle up, you know, whatever you want to call that, for cable clearance. I don't know how much issues we'll have on the Ibex, but I know that on the Tenere 700 it was best to use this style to get clearance here for your clutch cable on one side and your throttle cable and wiring on the other side. Some variety of the Cycra handguards has always been my go-to handguards, and these are just a little bit differently configured than what I have on my DRZ 400. But this will work good on the Ibex because that's what I had, and it worked really well on my Tenere 700. I'll throw a little clip of what those look like on the T7. So you can actually buy replacement hand wind deflectors These are nice because in the summertime, if you're riding in really hot weather, for an extended period of time, you can just pull these out. And then in cold weather, you could pop these in. And you can actually replace these. These are available in a bunch of different colors. Unfortunately, they don't sell this kit with these in black. If you want the hand wind deflectors in black, you have to buy them separate. It's just odd that they don't offer the kit with these in black. But you can buy the kit with all sorts of different color configurations. And then these are replaceable as well. These are little plastic guards that protect your aluminum down off the end of the hand guards. And then here in this compartment we have all the hardware. So let's pull one of these out and take a closer look at it. So this would be the clutch side. So you can see this little up angle to clear your cables. So the CRM variety is, the CRM stands for center reach mount. And what that means is that the mount where it attaches to the bar, right here, the clamp, it extends and situates this relatively close to the handlebar mounts. Most handguards, they mount way outboard of the handguard or the handlebar clamps. And depending on what type of bend you have or lift and whatever on your handlebars, it can be difficult to get normal style handguards to mount. So that's where these come into play, and it gives you some options as far as which screw hole to use and all that good stuff. So I think that just about wraps it up. A lot of these accessories will cross over to any adventure bike or most adventure bikes or small dual sport bikes. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, I've got either Amazon links or Rocky Mountain affiliate links down in the description below for all or most of this stuff. I'll also include some other accessories that are pretty useful for dual sport and adventure bikes that I may add to both of the bikes that I plan to get, but I'll have links to those down in the description below, and I'll kind of separate those out into a different category, sort of below all of this stuff here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and be sure to drop a comment below if there's any other accessories that you think are useful for dual sport or small adventure bikes.